everybody. So today we are doing 1-2, finding functions from relations. So I can determine functions from relations. Okay, so the very first way that you can do this is the vertical line test. So does the graph pass the vertical line test? What is the vertical line test? It is a visual way to determine if a function or if a relation is a function. What do? You draw 5 vertical lines on the relation. Put dots on each place where the vertical line crosses the relation, and then the rule is you can only touch each dot, or each line can only have one dot. So when would you use, or we can do that in a minute. Okay, so vertical line test. Thinking about this, let's go ahead and draw some lines. So I'm going to do a line, I don't know, right here, right here, right here, right here, and let's just try out right here. Okay, so now we're going to draw dots everywhere that your graph touches that line. So it touches it right there, right there, right here, and right here. So let's count how many lines do we have. We have 5 lines. How many dots do we have? We have 5 dots. So does it pass? Yes, it does. Each line only has 1 dot. Okay, and then for the next one, vertical line test, let's go ahead and draw some lines. So, let's say we have a line right here, 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 and we have a line right here. Okay, so we're going to draw dots everywhere that your green graph goes across the line. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so is this, or does it pass the vertical line test, or does it fail? Well, looking at this first line has 3, the second line has 3, the third line has 3, fourth line has 3. This last one has 1. So does that mean that it passes or it fails? Well, it fails. So I'm going to say no, because some of the lines have 3 dots. So it does not matter if one of the lines does not. If any line has more than one spot where it crosses your graph, then it automatically fails. Okay, so when would you use this? When do you think that this would be the most helpful to use? I think it would be most helpful whenever you have a graph. So if I see a graph and they're asking, is this a function or not? I'm automatically just looking, okay, what would it look like if I had a straight line up and down? Okay, so now below, you're going to tell me, does it pass the vertical line test or not? So go ahead and take a couple minutes and then we'll check them together. Okay, so looking at this, the first one is yes, it does pass because it only has 1 dot for each line. The second one is no, because in one spot it hits twice. For C, it's yes, D is no, E is no, F is no, G is yes, H is no, I is yes, and J is yes. So one more time, we drew lines that went straight up and down, and we saw how many times does the graph actually cross those lines. Okay, so for the next page, this time we are looking at the mapping test. So what is mapping? We map or match each x to its y. What to do? You put all the x's on the left with no twins. So that means do not repeat any numbers. And then you put all the y's on the right side. Again, no repeating numbers or no twins. And then 3, you connect each x to its y specifically. So looking at this, we have a straight line going from there, we have a line going there, we have a line going there, we have a line going there. So, thinking about this, does this pass the mapping test? And mapping test means that each x can only go to one y. So would this pass? Yes, it would. Oops. Yes, each x only has one y. Looking at the second one, let's go ahead and just look at it like this. Okay, so this only has one line coming from it. This only has one line coming from it. This one has two lines coming from it. One line coming from it, one line coming from it, one line coming from it. So, does it pass? No, it doesn't. So I'm going to say no. 3, so the number 3, so this one right here, has 2 y's. So the 2 red parts, so it goes to 3 and it goes to 4. So that does not pass the mapping test. So when do you think that this would be useful? Well, it would be useful if you have coordinates. So if you were given coordinates, you'd be able to tell. Or if you had a table. So if I saw that I had a table of values, or if I saw that I had coordinates, then I would know right away if I have 2 x's, then it does not work. So right below, I want you to tell me, does each of these pass the mapping test? So really, you're telling me, make sure you pay attention that it has that x there. You're telling me, are there any repeating numbers? So go ahead and take a minute for that, and then we will check them together. Okay, so we should have gotten K is yes, all the numbers are different. I is no, because they're 2 8s. M is yes. N is no, because there are 2 negative 2s. O is no, because there's 2 zeros. And P is no, because there are 2 5s. So let's go ahead and go to the next page. Okay, so looking at this, we are going to pick if it's a function or not, which test did you use, and why did it pass or why did it fail. So looking at this very first one, do you think it's a function or not? Well, I'm saying yes, it is a function. Which test did I use to be able to solve this? Well, I have a list of coordinates, so that tells me that I'm using mapping. And then why did it repeat, or why did it fail? There are no repeating x's. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this next one. Is it a function or not? I don't think it is. What test did I use? VLT. VLT stands for vertical line test. Okay, there you go. So if I drew a line right here, it just crosses it twice, so that does not work. So it has, it crosses twice. Okay. Go ahead and take a minute, and I want you to try the next one. Okay, looking at this one, we should have said it is not a function. We know this because of mapping, because it's in the table, so that tells me, okay, I'm mapping. And then 1 has 2 y's. So one's here, so 1 repeated. Okay, go ahead and try the next one. Okay, so we should have gotten function because of the vertical line test, because of the fact that I have a graph that tells me, okay, if I drew lines, does it cross more than once? No, so only crosses once. And then the last one, is this a function or not? Well, looking at it, well, first thing, what test would I use? I'm going to use mapping. So I'm looking to see if any of my x's are repeated. So I have -2, 1, and -2. So it is not a function because of these 2 -2's. So I'm going to write -2 repeats. Okay, so what is a function? A function is a special type of equation. It always has 1 y for each Usually the variables are x and y, or f of x and x. F of x just means y. We need to remember that from Algebra 1. Okay, so it must also pass one of our tests, the vertical line test or the mapping test. Functions are functions are like a machine. We put a number in, or the input, the function rule evaluates it, and a new number comes out, or the output. The function rule is what the machine does. So if I was looking over here and just, okay, it is a function, or it is a machine to put it in, your input is going into the top. The function rule is what's inside, and then whatever comes out is your output. Okay, so let's go ahead and try these ones out. Okay, so my input, I'm going to plug in 2. So 2 plus 4 is 6. For my next one, my input, I don't know, let's just try 16. 16 minus 8 is 8. Okay. We could pick whatever number we wanted. I'm just picking random numbers. So for this one, let's go ahead and say 4. So 2 times 4 is 8. And then the last one, again, we're just picking a random number. Let's do 3, or negative 3. So negative 3 squared. What is negative 3 times negative 3? It's 9. So 9's on the outside. Okay, so looking at this, again, you have your function, you have your input, your output, and then your function rule. So this is just saying what each of the pieces are. So looking down below, my input is just a plain x, right? That's my variable. My output is whatever it is set equal to. So for this first one, f of x would be my output. My function rule is just whatever's on the inside. So 3x squared plus 2x minus 10. So we can all see that, right? Looking down below, my input, again, is just x. My output, this time, is y. It is whatever is over on this side. My input is whatever's in the rule. My output is whatever's on the other side. So my function rule is 3x minus 19. A way you can double check your input and your function rule. Check and make sure that whatever's in your input is in your function rule. Okay, go ahead and try the next one. Okay, so looking at it, we should have t, s of t, and 2t squared minus 2t plus 1. The very last one, we should have x, y, and the absolute value of 2x minus 4. So pretty simple. Domain is another word to describe the inputs. So if you think about it, yesterday we were talking about domain, right? And domain is just all of your x's. Well, what are my inputs? My x's. So typically my x values. Range is another word to describe what? My outputs are typically my y values. Okay, I'm going to stop this video here, and then I'm going to post the next video up, so it'll be 1, 2, part 2.